Christmas is supposed to be peaceful, but the man singing outside my window that night had a very different holiday in mind. My name is Leo, and the events I'm about to describe unfolded over the course of one deeply unsettling week last December. My partner, Maya, had traveled to be with her family for the holidays. Work commitments kept me behind. Our home is in a tranquil, wooded suburb of Connecticut. The properties are generous, with plenty of space between them. By the 23rd, nearly everyone on our cul-de-sac had departed to visit relatives, leaving the entire lane in a profound, almost eerie stillness. Initially, I welcomed the solitude. The plan was simple: rest, unwind, and enjoy the quiet luxury of an empty house. I'd watch movies, order takeout, and relish the silence. That sense of calm would shatter completely on my second night alone, replaced by a chilling dread I can still feel in my bones. It was early evening, maybe around 6. Darkness had fully claimed the day, and a soft, persistent snow had been dusting the world since afternoon. A pristine white layer blanketed the driveway and the pine trees in our yard. I was in the kitchen, attempting to prepare a simple meal, something far less impressive than Maya's usual culinary creations. For background noise more than entertainment, I switched on the television. The house felt too vast, too hollow without another soul in it. The cheerful commercials felt jarring against the deepening quiet. As I sat at the table to eat, an alien sound cut through the mundane atmosphere. It took my brain a long second to process it. It was singing, a low, tuneless vocalization coming from outside. I thumbed the remote, silencing the TV. In the new quiet, the sound clarified. It was a man's voice, gruff and off-key, attempting jingle bells. My first rational thought was of carolers, but this wasn't a cheerful choir. This was a single adult man. The melody wasn't joyful. It was monotonous, like a broken record played in the cold. I stood and moved toward our front foyer, the sound growing more distinct with each step. By the time I reached the door, it was unmistakably originating from just the other side of the wood. A tight knot of apprehension formed in my gut. I peered through the peephole, but its fisheye lens only showed a distorted blur of our porch light. Steeling myself, I turned the handle and opened the door a few inches. Standing under the harsh glow of the porch fixture was a man. He appeared to be in his late 30s. He wore a denim jacket, shockingly inadequate for the freezing weather, and no hat. His hair was damp from the snow. His eyes were fixed downward, locked on our welcome mat, as he continued his sluggish, discordant rendition of the holiday classic. He showed no sign of registering that the door had opened. I managed a weak, confused smile. Hello?" I said, my voice barely above a mutter. He gave no response, not a glance, not a pause in his singing. I wondered, briefly, if he had some cognitive difference, if he was lost or disoriented. The performance felt less like caroling and more like a trance. When he finally reached the end of the verse, he took a shallow, ragged breath. And then he started the exact same song again from the very beginning. This time, however, his gaze lifted, his eyes glassy and distant, locked directly onto mine. The forced smile melted from my face. This wasn't right. The direct stare transformed the awkward situation into something palpably wrong. I stood there frozen for what felt like an age as he looped the song a third time. I checked my watch. Nearly 4 minutes had passed since I'd opened the door. "Okay, thank you," I said, my tone firm but flat. "Merry Christmas." I slowly pushed the door closed until the latch clicked. Through the wood, the singing continued, uninterrupted. I returned to the kitchen, but my appetite was gone. The pasta was cold, congealed. The voice was a constant, grating presence, seeping into the house. It wasn't loud, but it was pervasive, an auditory intrusion that made my skin prickle. Could he be mentally ill? Was there a caretaker nearby that I couldn't see? I parted the blinds and scanned the empty, snow-swept street. No cars, no people, just the faint glow of neighbors' holiday lights through the trees. He was alone, and he was on my property. The silence of being alone had just been violated by a terrible, repeating noise. The singing finally ceased after about 10 relentless minutes. The sudden vacuum of silence was almost as jarring as the noise itself. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Cautiously, I moved to the front window and shifted the curtain aside. He hadn't left. He had simply relocated. Now he stood at the very foot of our driveway, where the asphalt met the quiet road. He was perfectly still, facing the house, a dark silhouette against the white snow. He was no longer singing. He was just watching, waiting, a silent sentry in the falling snow. This was profoundly worse. The performance was bizarre, but this was a threat.
Anger and fear bubbled up together. I yanked the door open again, the cold air hitting me like a wall. "Hey!" I shouted. "You need to leave. This is private property." The figure didn't move a muscle. "I'm not asking. Get off my driveway or I'm calling the police." I slammed the door, my heart hammering against my ribs. From the window, I watched. For a full minute, he remained a statue. Then, with a slow, almost mechanical turn, he shuffled out of the pool of light and vanished into the shadowy gap between two houses across the street. Relief, warm and dizzying, washed over me. It was over. The threat had worked. I double-checked every lock, then decided to retreat upstairs for the night. I needed to put distance between myself and the front of the house. In my bedroom, I changed, tried to read, but the words swam on the page. Every creak of the settling house, every gust of wind made me flinch. After 20 anxious minutes, I convinced myself the encounter was done. That's when I heard it again, the same tuneless, dragging melody. Jingle bells. But the direction was wrong. It wasn't coming from the front. It was filtering up from below, through the floor. It was in my backyard. I scrambled out of bed and rushed to the back window. My blood turned to ice. There, standing in the middle of our snow-covered garden, was the man. His head was tilted back, his mouth open as he sang, his breath forming plumes in the frigid air. And he was staring directly up at my window. He had been waiting for me to appear. "Get out of here!" I roared, shoving the window sash up. "I am calling the police right now!" The singing stopped instantly. The abrupt silence was violent. For 3 heartbeats, he just stood there, his face an unreadable mask in the gloom. Then, his body coiled and he exploded into motion. He didn't run away. He sprinted directly toward the back of my house, disappearing from my view beneath the eaves. What followed was a sound I will never forget. It wasn't a scream of fear or anger. It was a raw, guttural, animalistic roar of pure fury. It vibrated through the window pane and echoed around the backyard. Then came the impacts. Bang, bang, bang. He was throwing his body against the back kitchen door. The solid wood groaned in its frame. I felt the impacts through the floorboards. He wasn't just trying to get my attention anymore. He was trying to break in. My hands shook so badly I could barely dial. I got through to 911, my voice a frantic, high-pitched stammer. "A man is trying to break into my house. He's at the back door. Please hurry." The dispatcher kept me on the line. I grabbed the heavy metal flashlight from my nightstand, a pathetic weapon, and backed into my walk-in closet, pulling the door nearly shut. The operator's calm voice was a lifeline in the darkness as the horrific symphony of screams and battering continued below. The most terrifying sound isn't a ghost, it's a living person trying to get to you. And then It stopped. The silence that rushed in was thick and heavy, somehow more threatening than the noise. Had he given up? Had he gotten inside? I sat in the dark closet, the flashlight clenched in my sweat-slicked hand, listening to the ragged sound of my own breathing. I didn't move until I saw the pulsating blue and red lights painting my bedroom walls. Meeting the officers on my front walk, the cold air felt like freedom. 2 policemen, calm and professional, swept the perimeter with powerful beams. They found the deep, chaotic footprints in the backyard snow, documenting the path from where he'd stood singing to the door, and then leading off into the thick woods that border our property. The back door was dented and scraped, but the lock had held. Their assessment was frustratingly casual. Probably someone having a mental health episode, one offered, shining his light into the trees. Happens more around the holidays than you'd think. Doors are locked, you should be fine. They made a brief, perfunctory attempt to follow the trail, but turned back, citing the difficulty and the cold. Their lack of urgency made me feel insane. The visceral terror I'd experienced was being filed away as a minor nuisance. After their cruisers disappeared down the street, the house felt different. It was no longer my cozy sanctuary. It was a box that had been violated, its silence now pregnant with threat. I checked every lock twice, then a third time. I spent the rest of the night with every light on, jumping at shadows. I cut my solitary holiday short and drove to my sister's house first thing in the morning. I couldn't spend another hour there. The man never returned, at least not while I was home. The police never called with any update. Life, as it does, moved on, but the experience left a permanent mark. I don't enjoy deep silence anymore. I find myself checking the locks multiple times each night, a ritual I can't seem to break. And every December, when I hear jingle bells in a store or on the radio, I don't feel cheer. I feel a cold prickle on the back of my neck, and I'm instantly back at that window, looking down at a figure in the snow who wanted in. If this story unsettled you, if it made you double-check your own locks tonight, then do this channel a solid. Hit the like button, it genuinely helps me out, and consider subscribing to Midnight Zephyr for more tales from the darker corners of reality. We explore the stories that linger long after the lights go out.